The era of a new and revitalized Philippines continues, committed to reforms for improving governance, to boost investments, and ramp up the country's growth potential.
The government's renewed commitment to good governance has helped improve trust and build confidence among investors to do business in the Philippines.
President Aquino's goal is to transform the Philippines. He wants to make sure that good governance in the Philippines is sustained beyond his term.
In spite of global economic turmoil, the country managed to stay the course.
Despite the negative external operating environment, the economy continued to grow, inflation was kept well within target, domestic liquidity remained supportive of growth, external sector dynamics stayed robust, the banking system remained sound. On the part of the BSP, we managed volatilities in financial markets in 2011, brought about by surges in capital flows through the judicious use of our enhanced policy toolkit. We had much earlier put in place reforms that have encouraged banks to increase their capital and clean up their balance sheets. We have also strengthened our financial inclusion efforts. These have encouraged banks to boost lending to the MSME sectors.
The government is trying to rebuild a business the Philippines has known for a long time. Tourism is one of the new engines of growth that will propel the Philippines to a faster, more sustainable growth trajectory.
The tourism sector through the DOT has achieved many good things in 2011. First and foremost, we were able to finally unify the Tourism Congress of the Philippines. The Tourism Congress of the Philippines is the organization that holds together all the stakeholders in the tourism business. We also ended 2011 with a record 12% increase in tourist arrivals to bring us beyond 3.9 million tourists, well on our way to our 2012 target of 4.2 million. 2011 was also characterized by a final decision to go with a new tourism campaign under the theme, "It's More Fun in the Philippines." And we look forward to more gains in 2012. The theme is based on a very simple logic. The Filipino takes it as his personal responsibility to make sure that his guest is okay and having fun. That makes all the difference in the world.
Sustained improvements are evident in all facets of the macroeconomy.
In 2011, we've actually reaped the benefits of the good governance initiatives of the President. In terms of revenue, the increase of revenue from 2010 to 2011 is the highest ever in the last 10 years without new taxes or new asset sales. Revenues increased by about 13% over that of 2010. In terms of the interest expense that we had to pay our creditors, our expenses decreased by about 42 billion pesos compared to our program. Obviously, that's partly due to the low interest environment, but I think a big part of it is the confidence that the financial community has put in the good governance agenda of President Aquino.
Sound macroeconomic fundamentals and governance reforms have made the Philippines a safe haven for investors.
Our borrowing cost is a very good indication of how the market looks at us. In January, the Philippine government issued the 25-year bonds, a 5% yield. And that's never been done before. In fact, that's the lowest ever for an Asian sovereign that issued a bond with that kind of tenor. This kind of accomplishments would not be possible without the confidence of the market in the leadership in the Philippines, in the agenda of that administration.
These are clear indications that good governance is paving the way for long-term sustained growth, which in turn translates to more jobs for Filipinos. In 2011, new jobs hit 1.2 million, outperforming the government's goal of generating at least 1 million jobs each year. And reflecting this growing optimism on the economy, investments continue.
We accomplished a lot in 2011. Investments in particular with BOI and PESA, grew by 30% on an already very large base. So from 500 billion in 2010, we registered 650 billion in 2011. In terms of the competitiveness, we also did very well on the competitiveness area. In particular, two surveys. One is the WEF survey that showed an improvement from 85th place to 75th place, which is a 10-place jump, the biggest in the survey. In the last 3 weeks, the results of a JETRO survey comparing 8 Asian countries, including China, Indonesia, India, and a couple of other countries in our region, that showed the Philippines on top of most of the categories.
Efforts to improve governance are picking up momentum elsewhere in government.
Here at the Department of Budget and Management, made sure that all expenditures of government followed closely the priorities set forth by President Aquino. And these were in the areas of good governance, poverty reduction, economic expansion, peace and the rule of law, and the integrity of the environment.
2011 was a year when we really put to task the issue of even playing field and a good governance structure for the energy department. We launched PCR4 for oil and gas, which attracted over 140 companies from all over the world. Likewise, in 2011, we also launched our energy contracting round for coal operating contracts. And again, there was significant interest from both domestic and international companies that are here. I think this is proof that the Philippines is definitely back in business as far as resource development for energy is concerned.
In terms of good governance, we were able to achieve more than 6 billion in savings through competitive, open, and transparent public bidding in all of our projects in 2011. In addition to that, we were able to improve significantly for the same amounts the quality of our national roads. It's the first time that we are devoting as much as 26% of our General Appropriations Act going into Mindanao.
The prospects for 2012 look bright.
We expect inflation to remain manageable, with headline inflation to remain within the target range of 3 to 5% for 2012. Moreover, monetary and fiscal policies are in place to ensure a macroeconomic environment that will continue to broadly support consumer confidence and promote investment spending.
We hope to have a higher growth percentage over the next year. The budget assumption that we have for 2012 was 5 to 6%. We're hoping that we will get into that range primarily by stronger infrastructure investments, both on the government side and the complementary investments that will be coming from the private sector.
Because of the adjustments and the reforms that we introduced here at DBM last year, this year we will be seeing dramatic improvements in budget execution as well as in government spending. For example, as of the end of January this year, about 91% of all the allotments of the departments in the government have already been released. So you can see how fast project implementation is going to happen in this year.
For 2012, we will continue to focus on upgrading the quality and safety of our national roads and bridges. In addition to this, we have a convergence program with other departments, and this principally will include giving access to tourism destinations, airports, seaports, and major food production areas. The other area would be looking at river basins to be able to optimize utilization of water and reduce flooding in urban centers. For 2012, we have an allocation for capital outlay of about 110 billion, which means that we have to implement this early as compared to 2011. But just to report to you, as early as February 15, we have already bidded out 85% of our projects listed in the General Appropriations Act. And actually, we have awarded 68% of these projects, which means that compared to 2011, we will be implementing our projects quite early this year.
Our plan is to encourage additional investments into the baseload generation of electricity to help mitigate supply concerns as well as pricing concerns.
This year, we will focus our minds to deliver results. Our major accomplishment in 2011 is we reduced rice imports to 1/3, 860,000 metric tons from 2.4 million metric tons in 2010. We plan to import lesser volume in 2012. Our biggest challenge is sustaining the productivity of our farms and fishing grounds against the backdrop of climate change. We will integrate climate change adaptation measures in all the DA programs and projects.
Tourism and agriculture in particular are really the topmost priorities because these are the sectors that can provide a lot of jobs throughout the countryside. But we will continue as well to push for the sectors that are big, such as the BPO call centers, as well as the electronics industries. Creative industries is an industry that's quite specialized. It doesn't have the scale of the other sectors, but because of our creative people, this is really an industry that has to be pushed.
The Aquino administration has made Mindanao one of the main thrusts of its development efforts. And we have been introducing many projects into Mindanao as part of its poverty alleviation program as well as for regional development in general.
Inclusive growth through good governance is within reach.
Good governance,
Integrity,
Development effort,
Efficiency,
Access,
Conservation,
Competitiveness,
resilience.
The Philippines, breaking the barriers to economic growth through good governance.